Peter always believed that his daughter Julie and his wife had a good relationship. However, when things at home started to get complicated, Julie revealed a shocking secret about her stepmother. Determined to understand what was happening, Peter hid under the bed, and what he heard at that moment led him to confront his wife, revealing a surprising secret. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Peter and Margot were two young people fresh out of high school when their lives took an unexpected turn. Margot discovered she was pregnant, a piece of news that initially made them apprehensive, but was soon welcomed as a blessing. Both families were understanding and supportive, not pressuring the young couple to marry hastily. In the months that followed, Peter and Margot prepared for the baby's arrival, continuing to live with their respective parents. When little Julie was born, it was a moment of unity between the two families. The girl was adored by everyone, especially her grandparents, who showered her with affection and attention. As Julie grew, it became clear that Peter and Margot, despite being excellent parents, no longer had a romantic connection. However, they maintained a solid and healthy friendship, always placing Julie's well-being first. The years passed, and both Peter and Margot managed to graduate from the local university. They chose to study in their hometown to always be close to Julie, counting on the constant support of their parents on this journey. Julie was 7 years old when Peter met Liza, a colleague from work. Liza was a woman with a strong personality. From the beginning, she showed understanding regarding Peter's situation, gladly accepting the fact that he had a daughter. The relationship between Peter and Liza quickly blossomed, and soon they decided to get married. Julie, a girl with blonde hair and blue eyes like her father, adored Liza. On the days she stayed with the couple, the two had fun baking cakes, watching movies and playing in the garden. Liza sometimes felt a twinge of jealousy over the friendly relationship Peter maintained with Margot, but she understood that it was important for Julie to see her parents getting along. She would take a deep breath and remind herself that the most important thing was the well-being of the girl. When Julie turned 9, it was Margot's turn to find a new love. At a party, she met Brian, a tall man with broad shoulders and an easy smile. He was the cousin of one of her friends and won her heart, and soon they were also married. Life seemed to have found a perfect balance for everyone. Julie, now 11, divided her time between the two homes, always surrounded by love and attention. However, this balance was about to be shaken. On a sunny spring afternoon, Margot asked to talk to Peter privately. They met at a cafe in the city centre, a neutral place where they often discussed matters related to Julie. Peter immediately noticed that something was wrong. Margot seemed nervous, her eyes avoiding direct contact. "Peter, I need to tell you something," Margot began, her voice trembling. "I'm having behavioural problems with Julie. I think it's the onset of adolescence, but it's interfering with my marriage to Brian." Peter frowned, surprised. Julie had always been a sweet and obedient girl. "What kind of problems?" he asked, concerned. Margot hesitated before replying. "She's been talking back, sometimes yelling. I think it would be better if she went to live with you for a while." Despite being confused by the situation, Peter agreed to have Julie living with him full-time. He loved his daughter and would do anything to ensure her well-being. In the weeks that followed, Peter closely observed Julie's behaviour but noticed nothing unusual. The girl remained the same sweet and obedient child as always. However, his wife Liza began to express concern about the situation. "Peter, don't you think it's strange that Margot always comes up with an excuse not to pick up Julie?" Liza questioned one night while they were preparing dinner. "And she hasn't been paying her share of the girl's expenses for months." Peter sighed, running his hand through his hair. "I know, Liza. I'm worried too. Julie keeps asking about her mother." The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Margot's absence in Julie's life became increasingly evident and painful. The girl, once so cheerful and carefree, now carried a look of sadness in her blue eyes. It was on an autumn afternoon that little Julie surprised her father, Peter, with a shocking revelation. She entered her father's office, hesitant, nervously playing with the hem of her shirt. "Dad, I need to tell you something," she said, her voice almost a whisper. Peter stopped what he was doing, giving his full attention to his daughter. "What is it, honey?" Julie took a deep breath before continuing. "I heard Liza talking on the phone with a lawyer. She talked about separation, Dad. She mentioned something about freezing bank accounts." Peter's heart raced. He and Liza had been having some arguments lately, mostly related to Margot, but nothing that would justify a separation, much less such extreme measures. "Are you sure about what you heard, Julie?" he asked, trying to stay calm. Julie nodded, her eyes filled with tears. "I am, Dad. I didn't mean to overhear, but she was speaking loudly in the room." Peter hugged his daughter, trying to process the information. He needed to find out what was going on, but he didn't want to alarm Julie any further. The weekend arrived, and with it, the opportunity Peter needed to relax a bit. On a Saturday afternoon, he was getting ready to go cycling with some friends. He said goodbye to Liza and Julie, who were in the living room watching a movie. Already in the garage, ready to leave, Peter realised he had forgotten his watch. He went back to fetch it from the bedroom and, upon entering, noticed that the object had fallen beside the bed. He bent down to pick it up when he heard footsteps approaching. On impulse, Peter rolled under the bed, hiding. Liza entered the room, speaking on the phone. Her voice was low and urgent. "Mr. Johnson, how can we proceed?" she was saying. "He's left the house. We need to act quickly. Can we meet at the police station to file the complaint against him? And has his access to the bank accounts already been blocked?" Peter's heart was pounding so loudly he feared being discovered. His mind was racing, trying to understand why Liza would be planning something like this against him. Unable to contain himself any longer, Peter emerged from his hiding place. Liza jumped back, letting her phone fall to the ground. "Peter!" she exclaimed, her face pale with shock. "What are you doing here?" "I should be the one asking, Liza," Peter replied, his voice shaking with anger and confusion. "What does all this mean? Why are you talking to a lawyer about reporting me and blocking my accounts?" Liza was silent for a moment, her green eyes wide with fear and something else. Guilt? Shame? Finally, she took a deep breath and began to speak. "Peter, it's not what you're thinking. I am helping Margot." Peter frowned, confused. "Helping Margot? What do you mean?" Liza sat on the edge of the bed, inviting Peter to do the same. "I've been talking to a lawyer because Margot is suffering from violence at the hands of her husband. That's why she sent Julie to come live with us." Liza's words hit Peter like a punch in the stomach. He remembered Margot's excuses, how she seemed nervous and evasive in recent months. "Margot didn't have anyone to ask for help," Liza continued. "She is embarrassed of her family and friends and decided to ask for my help. Have you noticed that I haven't complained about her lately? Ever since I found out what she has been going through, everything changed." Peter nodded slowly, beginning to understand. "Is that why she hasn't been paying Julie's bills and hasn't been coming to pick her up?" "Exactly," Liza confirmed. "Her husband has been abusive and violent, and he's also restricting her access to her own money. Peter, we need to help Margot." At that moment, all of Peter's anger and confusion turned into concern and determination. Margot was not just Julie's mother, she was his longtime friend. He couldn't stand by while she suffered. "What can we do?" he asked, holding Liza's hand. Together, Peter and Liza devised a plan to help Margot escape that abusive situation. With the help of the lawyer and the authorities, they managed to get Margot away from Brian. In the weeks that followed, Margot went through a process of healing and recovery. She had Julie back in her life, now in safety. The girl, happy to have her mother back, blossomed again. Peter was impressed by his wife Liza's sensitivity and compassion. She had put aside any jealousy she might have felt towards Margot to help a woman in need. This gesture further strengthened the love and respect Peter felt for his wife. The family, once divided by secrets and misunderstandings, was now more united than ever. Julie had the love and support of her parents and Liza, forming a network of care and protection around her. As he watched Julie playing in the garden with Margot and Liza, Peter reflected on how unpredictable life could be. What had begun as a frightening misunderstanding had turned into an opportunity to help someone dear and strengthen family bonds. On that sunny afternoon, with the sound of Julie's laughter filling the air, Peter felt a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for his family, for Liza, and for the courage they all showed in facing adversity and protecting one another. The journey had not been easy, but together they had overcome the obstacles. And now, looking to the future, Peter knew that, no matter what happened, they would face it together, as the family they were. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.